likely not going to be able to stream for long, sadly. But I really, really wanted to stream. Sorry for that, but oh no, am I lagging? Ah, ah, sorry. Um, but I really wanted. Sunday, I was with family most of the day, and when I was a lot of me, so I'm very sorry that I couldn't stream, but I promise it's not out of. I don't think I had to stop, like, not stream one day out of malice. Here we go. Sorry, trying to get a mess. I'm gonna lose my mind. There we go. Oh! I didn't change the Let me close something so I can. So I'm pressed, and I was like, let me make it lag less by using like Steam. I didn't think of the fact that this game is. Again. Here we go. Okay. He's not trying to clickbait, just a bimbo. But final touch to finish it off. Okay. Okay. Everything should be set up now. Possible. I say that while I'm like bent over. Okay. Everything should be good. Wow. Okay. Where's Slay? I wish the music wasn't so loud. I thought I turned the music down before. I did! Okay, we'll put it like. I can turn. Okay. That seems pretty good to me. So in case you missed last stream and the stream before it, basically we are a young teenage girl who's very shy and not good at expressing her emotions, or standing up for herself. She is friends with people who aren't really the nicest to her, but because she struggles with standing up for herself, she kind of puts up with it. They dared her to go inside a house where she found a dead body of an old woman, which traumatized her, and then kind of forced her to go inside. When she was inside, though, she met this very pale girl who I suspect is a ghost, personally. I suspect is a ghost. But that's just a theory. A game theory. Throughout this game, not that, like, you have to see all the episodes, I think, but, like, I'm trying to, like, and I feel, like, I want you to, like, pay attention to the small details, because I'm gonna be, like, mentioning theories. I mean, I guess we could just, like, actually finish the game, and then, I wouldn't have to do theories, I would just know what happens. But, throughout this game, I'm gonna have, like, theories, and like pay close attention if you can. If you can't, that's fine. You're allowed to do other things while listening. Okay, first water. Oh yeah, last time we had gotten to an argument with our friend because she's a jerk and we actually stood up for ourselves and our parents are shocked. But you never argue with anybody, Aspen! Aspen frowned, cradling the phone against her ear. So, it seemed even her own father thought she was a complete pushover. That was a little disheartening. I don't usually, but she annoyed me. Well, I'm sure you'll patch things up in the end. I always fell out with my friends when I was your age. It's part of growing up. I like his mentality, yes, but I really hope that they don't patch things up. Like, he's trying to cheer her up. But also, like, I feel like you should say, like, I'm sure you'll patch things up in the end. Like, cause, like, like, if you get into fights, like, not always gonna end with patching things up. But he's trying his best. I don't know. Pippa can be pretty stubborn. I'm scared she'll stay mad at me. Lucky, too. I don't know what to do. You fell out with Lucky as well? But she's always struck me as a sensible girl. I know, but I said some mean things to Pippa, and Lucky took her side. They weren't mean things, girlie! You were just saying the truth and standing up for yourself. There's a difference between, like, hey, you're ugly, and, like, hey, you did these actions and they hurt me. Aspen winced. She knew, even as she said it, just how childish she sounded. Shut up, Pokemon bot. Talking about sides like a little kid in the playground. She wasn't 6. She was 16. Almost 17. Virtually an adult. But she never felt smaller and sadder and more alone. Oh, Aspen. Her mother sighed, perhaps in sympathy with her beleaguered? No, I want to know what that means. Fair warning I will give, and of course, like, if this happens too much, then we'll stop playing the game, but I feel like this game, like, is a lesbian romance, but it's got so much sad stuff, and, like, not that that's not okay, talk about serious topics, we stand that, bestie, but I feel like it's kind of advertised too much as, like, oh, lesbian romance, either that or I kind of read the room wrong. Because, like, I came in for lesbian romance expecting 2 girls to kiss, and instead I got this girl experiencing the tragedy of death and getting pushed over by her friends. Beleaguered. Is that how you pronounce it? But it's trying to help me figure out how to pronounce it, I don't know. In a very difficult situation. Maybe that's a British word. I'm sure it'll be fine. Things will work out in the end, just you wait. I don't understand how anybody could be angry with a sweet girl like you. Just don't hurry to make up with Pippa too quickly. I think I'd feel safer without her in our home when we're away on holiday. With her out of the picture, she won't be able to break anything else. Ooh, sorry. After finishing the lengthy and no doubt expensive phone conversation with her parents, Aspen went back to the kitchen to warm up her dinner. The shepherd's pie eaten, Aspen then retreated back to her bedroom. She leaned back in her bed, flicking through a book, but she wasn't really paying attention to it. She was too distracted by her thoughts, though they weren't, surprisingly enough, about Pippa or even about their argument. A figure kept wending in and out of her mind, like the waves against the scrubby Scarborough shores. The figure was dressed in white, had long, flowing hair, and stepped nimbly through the fog of Aspen's scattered thoughts like a deer. My only concern is that this is like the grandma when she was younger. Like, I don't know how ghosts work. Like, maybe it's them when they were like younger. But like, my main theory is that the girl is like the grandmother's granddaughter, or daughter who like died at that age. It was the girl she'd met yesterday, Althea. Aspen hadn't told her parents about Althea, because then she'd have to confess into breaking into Miss Lay's home, and she didn't want her parents, particularly her mother, to know she'd gone there last night. She didn't want her mother to worry. But though Aspen hadn't spoken about Althea, that didn't stop her from thinking about her. In fact, it made her think about Althea all the more, till her mind became so entangled with thoughts about the mysterious girl she thinks she might burst. Just who was she? Something about her had seemed somewhat familiar, but Aspen was sure she'd never met anybody called Althea before. It was funny. That was the name that Miss Lay had so often called Aspen during their little tea parties. I feel like that's an important detail, but I don't know what that means. Look! I'm so happy you made it! Welcome! Leo, I'm so happy you got to come to your house. Okay, by the way, I cannot speak English. Got to come over to your stream. You've saved my day. Oh, hello! Welcome! I'm so glad you were able to make it here. You're the sweetest pie in the world. How's your day been? Was it a coincidence, or was there something more to it? I don't know, game. You gotta tell me. You're the writer. How ridiculous. That was what Aspen told herself, with a shake of her head, but she still continued to wonder. Would Althea be at Miss Lay's home again? Althea had implied, during their brief talk yesterday, that she often visited Miss Lay's old home, though Aspen couldn't imagine why. It was true there wasn't an awful lot to do in Scarborough. Oh my gosh, I'm getting snotty, as a 16-year-old, but Miss Lay's house was hardly a point of public interest. Althea must have heard about the dead woman and taken an interest. Aspen supposed it was nothing more than morbid curiosity. There had been several girls at Aspen's old school, Graham Secondary, who dyed their hair black and wore dark makeup to the chagrin of their head of year. British speak, to the chagrin of their head of year, and they were always talking about satanic cults and serial killers. It's been good, things all considered. I did something IRL, played sports, and got myself some candy. That sounds like a fun day, man. I've gotten so much candy today, and it makes me happy, but it's got me a little bouncing off the walls. I'm very good. My friends all got me Valentines, and later tonight my dad's gonna cook me dinner. This girl is looping in emos and like true crime lovers with like people who like break into houses. Like, chill out. I mean, I guess, you know, some people do go a little far, but still. The correct category for these kind of girls, I told you so, was probably goth. But most of Aspen's classmates called them nutters. Aspen, you don't sound like you disagree with them. Like, goth people don't break into dead people's houses. Goth people just kind of like a certain type of style and music, you know? They slay. That label didn't seem to fit Althea, though. She hadn't been wearing black. Neither had she seemed particularly fascinated by the likes of Ed Gein or Ted Bundy, but you never know. To reiterate the previous point, Scarborough wasn't particularly interesting. There wasn't much to do, really, other than go to the beach, and that, along with the old amusement arcades and the funculars, wore thin when you'd been living there your whole life. Maybe Althea was interested in satanic cults and serial killers after all. If she was, Aspen wouldn't blame her. Say what now, bestie? Back up, bestie? Say what now, bestie? There were many things about Althea Aspen was unsure of. But there was one thing she did know. She wanted to see her again. No, it wasn't just that. She needed to see her again. Curiosity burned in Aspen's chest. She couldn't shake it, no matter how hard she stared at her book. She needed to know if Althea was a faint, fleeting hallucination, or if she was a real mortal like her. And, embarrassing though it was to admit, Aspen didn't want Althea's only impression of her to be that of a wide-eyed waif, her palm bleeding, dressed in that old black shirt she slept for the last 2 weeks. And so, when the clock on her shelf read 22:00 and the night sky was pitch black, Aspen left her bedroom. She put her trainers on by the front door, which were scuffed from age and filled with sand. When you lived by the sea, your shoes were always filled with sand, and made her way over to Miss Lay's house. Ooh! The house looked a little less imposing than it had yesterday, though the windows were still boarded up, the garden an overgrown tangle of weeds. The broken window at the back of the house was dark and gaping, like a gash, or a wound, or a mouth without teeth. Once more, James' teasing words, which sounded less teasing and more ominous now, repeated in Aspen's mind. Abandon all hope, ye who enter here. But though chills ran down Aspen's spine and her fingers trembled, her heartbeat remained surprisingly steady. The moon, hanging cold and round in the night sky, shone down on Aspen, not like a prison searchlight, but almost like a concerned friend. A guardian. It was watching over her. Of that Aspen was sure. The wind, blowing discordantly through the yellow leaves of Miss Lee's pear trees, failed to chill the teenage girl. Neither did the swaying of the overgrown grass around her trainers, or the faint hooting of the nightjars and the squawks of distant seagulls. Now Aspen knew what lurked beyond that window. To be fair, she did only see, a blink of the house. If I only saw, maybe 5 minutes of the inside of a scary place, I don't know if I'd say I knew what lurked beyond. Yesterday, lost in a sea of self-doubt, Aspen had let her imagination run wild. She'd seen ghosts and phantoms flittering hither and thither, while homeless men with unshaven faces and rough hands stole plates and cutlery, and threatened any defenseless teenager they happened to meet. Sorry, water break. Is that how you spell defenseless? I don't know, they're probably correct. Now these eerie imagings seemed trite, almost childish. When Aspen thought of Miss Lay's home, her mind invariably turned to Althea. Aspen hoped the other girl really was there. Then she might not be mad after all. It would prove the events of yesterday had been real. She hadn't lost her temper at Pippa over a vague imagining. So the girl she met that she's saying, might be a vague imagining, said, "Hey bestie, why don't you stand up for yourself?" So she stood up for herself. So even if the girl doesn't exist, it doesn't make it wrong for her to stand up for herself, right idea, it would just be wrong girl. Or maybe it would prove nothing, save for the fact Aspen's hallucinations were more persistent than she thought. More persistent than she thought? Do you have hallucinations already, bestie? Either way, Aspen had to know. Was Althea there? There was only one way to find out. I'm sorry to have to end stream only within 20 minutes, but sadly my dad is home, so I am going to have to end stream. I don't remember which save I was on. Oh, I was on this one. Okay. Thank you so much for everyone who came. I'm very glad you did, and I hope you have an amazing, amazing Valentine's Day. And this is goodbye from me. Bye bye.